You founded the Center for Rural Enterprise and Environmental Justice. Tell us about the center, please, your work there, also about founding the center. What does it take to found a center, a nonprofit? Not details of the American bureaucracy involved, but generally, what was the human involvement, and what advice would you have for others who are at the point where you were when you founded it?
Well, at the point where I was when I founded the Center for Rural Enterprise and Environmental Justice, there were no other organizations doing the type of work that we were doing. So we had to create our own mechanism to do that. And consequently, we figured out what the legal structure were, got the right people involved, sought board members. Some of our board members are very famous, like Jane Fonda, the American actress and activist herself, that we asked to be a part of helping us to found this organization. And we organized. One of the other board members is the daughter of Boxer Muhammad Ali. And we, I think, with us coming together and having the support of people, not only just in the community, but having support of people that were um, that were known in their own right as advocates, it gave us the credibility that we needed to go out and do the type of fundraising that was necessary to sustain us. And then we also, part of it is also marketing. You have to be able to show that you're relevant to the community and that you're also relevant to the issue that you're trying to address. So we had to always we had to be clear on what our mission was. We had to have a value statement, know what our values are, and then we build everything around that. And we also have to be willing to expand, and any organization has to be willing to expand and grow based on what the needs are, how the times change. Just imagine if I built an organization that was around uh, recordings of music. Through my lifetime, I've seen us go from 45 records through tapes and to where we are now to digital music. We have to be willing to change, and you have to know your capacity, because when you have an organization or a business, you need to know where your strengths are, and we had to know where our strengths were and where our weaknesses were. Where we could mitigate, we did, and then those things that we just were not in our lane, we stepped away from it.
Can you explain really the basics of the wastewater crisis in the US, how you got involved with it?
Well, I got involved with the wastewater crisis in the U.S. when I discovered that people in Lowndes County, Alabama, which is between historic Selma and Montgomery, where they had the famous voting rights march, were being arrested because they could not afford on site sanitation. And that was back in 2002. And as I learned more about the problem, I realized that it was deeper than that. It wasn't that they couldn't afford the technology, it's that the technology often didn't work. So we not only ended up talking to people who had none of the technology at all, which means that when they flushed their toilets, it was going out onto the ground. We also talked to people who had wastewater technology that was not functioning properly. And the way the state had was organized around this issue is that if the homeowner in rural communities had a system that didn't fail, then they were penalized. But they didn't take into account that a lot of the designs simply doesn't work in a place like Lowndes County that has high water tables. And then we get lots of rain too, and we have extreme heat. So all of those factors factor into whether or not these technologies work. And what really made it an international issue is when we did the parasite study, where we found hookworm and other tropical parasites in Lowndes County among residents who submitted fecal samples, blood samples. We also collected water samples and soil samples where we found these parasites. And then lastly, when the UN Special Rapporteur on Extreme Poverty came to Lowndes County and the Guardian covered it, and the rapporteur said that what he saw in Lowndes County was not something he expected to see in the first world.